Good afternoon, Ms. Gray. I'm Mr. Nimbo. I'm the intake coordinator here at Charlotte Court Inc. I just wanted to introduce myself before we get started.
Nice to meet you.
Okay. If you don't mind, as we talk, sometimes I don't mind. I like to take a little notes here and there if that's okay with you and everything, just to kind of keep thought sometimes. But also, before we get started, there's a couple of things I would like to, say to you before we engage in any conversation. First, anything that you and I talk about in this meeting is confidential. It's confidential, unless that I feel like maybe you're harm to yourself or you're harm to someone else.
I understand.
Okay, all right. Um, I was reading over your file, and it says here that your mother feels like you've been like partying and drinking and excessively over the past maybe 4 to 5, maybe 6 months. What is your take on that?
I mean, I wouldn't say it's excessive. I've just been going out and having fun. I know she worries about me, and that's why I'm here. I told her I would come and talk to someone because she was kind of concerned, but I tried to assure her that it was just more social and going out with my friends, and it's normally not too many drinks at one time. So, I mean, I don't think it's an issue, but she seems very concerned because of how frequent it is.
So is it safe to say that you two are feeling two different ways about the situation?
I mean, I think she is being a little overprotective and a little overbearing, and maybe the motherly side of her is coming out. I'm just enjoying life and having fun and going out, and I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with what I'm doing.
Okay, all right. Has in the past maybe 6 months to a year, how did this kind of pick up? What caused this situation to start picking up and your mother to start bringing it to your attention?
I mean, I've always gone out with my friends, but I guess it started more about 3 or 4 months ago. Um, I had a relationship that ended. I split with a long-time boyfriend of mine, and one of the things I've done to kind of help cope with that is go out with my friends more and go out drinking or go to a club or go to a bar. And I think maybe that's why she's a little bit more worried about it, because it has been more frequent here lately. But I think I mean, it's just keeping me busy and keeping me occupied. And I mean, I'm just going out and having fun. I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Now, did you go out more when you was in that relationship, or has this something that had just picked up after the ending of the relationship?
I mean, I did go out, but probably more now because I have more time, more freedom, and more available to my friends versus when I was in the relationship. I did more couple type things.
Okay. Has there been anything else that has maybe entered you all's life that kind of interrupted some things over the past 6 months to a year?
No, not really.
Okay. How do you feel like you've dealt with the breakup?
I mean, it was tough. I'm okay now, but like the first month or two was pretty rough because you go from being around someone like every day to having that taken away. So there's a big void, but my friends have been really good, and I mean, they've helped me keep my mind off of it. So I think I'm slowly getting over it, but it still hurts.
Okay. But how often do you say you go out? Maybe in a typical um, week, 2 week span, how often would you go out?
I would say 3 to 4 times a week,
Okay.
at least.
All right. Do you consume a lot of alcohol, or is it just beer, or do you have 1 or 2 glasses of wine? How does your night typically play out as far as when it comes to drinking?
I like wine. I like mixed drinks. Usually have between 2 to 5, depending on how long I'm out.
All right. Have you ever experienced any like blackouts or any things of that nature?
I mean, I've passed out a couple times at night, but I mean, I've been in my home or at my friend's house, and I mean, there's been times where I don't always remember everything, but for the most part, I always make it home safe, and I haven't been hurt yet. And I mean,
Okay. Well, here, earlier when you first came into the office, I gave you a questionnaire, just to try to get a little background, quick background, to kind of see some tendencies, habits, things of that nature. And some of the things that came up in the questionnaire was questions about drinking and how often do you drink, family history of drinking. Something interesting popped up on that scale, and when it came to the family history of drinking, I think you had put down that your father drank, your grandfather drank, and yeah, a couple other relatives drink heavily, or even alcoholics at some point.
my my dad has a bad habit of drinking. He does have alcoholism. He has been alcohol free for a couple years, but he did suffer from that disease for a while. His dad, same thing. And then my uncle on my mom's side has some alcoholism as well.
Okay. I would like to explore that side of everything, probably the next time we meet, if that's something that you're okay with.
I mean, okay.
Sometimes I feel like if we can give
I don't think I'm an alcoholic though.
and that's okay. Sometimes I feel like we can work through some things if we learn the history of our families and things of that nature, and give us a little insight on how we sometimes are affected by things that we don't know we can be affected by. Would you be interested in talking more about that the next visit?
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. Good visit. Thank you for opening up, and I can't wait to talk next week.